Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how to turn an ordinary mason jar into a gorgeous centerpiece for your wedding. These little things like table decorations, flowers, these little details are what takes up a lot of time and money in wedding preparation. But today I'm going to show you how you can do this well ahead of time and stay within your budget using supplies from our sponsor Paper Mart. You can find them online at www.papermart.com. And what I really want to share with you today is this beautiful 4-inch wide rose trim. You can see on the back how every rose is stitched down perfectly, and it's just such a beautiful touch and texture to any of your wedding decorations. This ribbon's a bit on the expensive side, but one roll is going to do all of your centerpieces, plus a little extras for other touches you may want. So I want to show you how to do this very easily. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to wrap it around your jar to measure. Now if you're using a mishmash of different jars, you will probably want to work off the spool so you don't make an error in cutting and end up wasting any of your ribbon. And I'll put links below to all the supplies I'm using so you don't have to worry about hunting it down. So once you've determined how much you need, I'm going to cut in between and around the roses here. So I'm going to go in right here, going to go around. I don't know if it really matters that much because they do stitch every rose down, but I thought it might make it a little bit more attractive when we glue it. Ooh, you might not want to use your best sewing scissors going over the edges of those ribbons because they are wired, which makes them hold their shape really well, but isn't so kind to your scissors. After you've got that down, the nice thing about going around the edges there is that we can really, keep that shape and not have much of a seam when we're done. I'm going to tuck that wire down and use a little bit of hot glue there just to tack it a little bit on there. You might want to reuse these mason jars later, so it's nice to do things that aren't completely permanent. Now, you don't have to glue the ribbon onto itself if you don't want to, because we will be adding more layers that'll tack the things down as we go. I think, though, I would like to have that security knowing my centerpiece isn't going to fall apart during the ceremony or the reception. So I'm just going to do a little bit of glue right there under those larger rose elements. Just be careful that you don't burn yourself. If you push down over the roses, you glue under a rose itself, it's not too bad, but the fabric itself is fairly sheer that it's made from, so you just want to make sure that you've got enough padding on your fingers that it's not going to burn you. Now to overlay that, I thought it'd be pretty to use some burlap. Now you can get burlap as fabric like I have here or as ribbon. So just choose whatever kind you think you'll get the most use out of. I already had this on hand, so I'm going to use this. But I'll link both to burlap ribbon and burlap fabric in the video description so you can choose what's best for you. If you're not going to do a ton of projects, the ribbon might be a better option. But if you are going to, maybe do some maybe chair covers, chair bows, maybe some table runners, you'll probably want the fabric because you'll get a lot more use out of it, and it's not a very expensive item, so you get to get a lot of bulk without a lot of cost. So what I've done here is I've just trimmed off a piece of the burlap, and I'm actually gonna fray it a bit by pulling some threads out. You can do as much or as little as you like of this. I should have cut a little bit straighter though, because I'm noticing that my my cut was kind of on an angle, so my ribbon is not very even. So when you do this, do a better job at that. But look how pretty that looks overlaid there. You can keep pulling the threads out too until you get it just the way you want. Now I'm going to work on the front, so I've got the seam to the back. I'm going to pull it around and just secure it with a little bit of glue. Just again, be careful because this is a fairly sheer, like holy product. You don't want to burn your fingers. It'd be handy to have like a little silicone muffin cup or something you can use as a pressing device. You don't want anyone's fingers burned right before the wedding. That wouldn't be nice. Now to finish this off, I recommend going around with like maybe a little bit of tulle or twine or jute. Now you can get several different kinds of twine at Paper Mart. These are really thick and ropey, and I think they're cute, but I think they're a little bit much for this because this is very delicate and dainty. So rather than using that thick jute, I think I might actually use a combination of tulle and twine. And when you build up layers on a project, it makes you look like you spent a lot more time on it than you actually have. I'm going to use some tulle here And this is just some 6-inch wide ivory colored tulle. And again, I'm wrapping it around so I've got the seam in the back, bringing it to the front. And I'm cutting it so I have probably about 6 inches on each side. I think all in all I've got about 2 feet of tulle here I'm working on. And then I'm just going to tie it in a knot in the front. We can always trim it down a little bit later if we decide we don't want extra. Just do a double knot there to make sure it doesn't come off. And that's pretty long, so I think I will just snip it there. I don't want too much bulk from the tulle because all the other parts have a lot of bulk to them. Now I'm going to take some of this twine, and I haven't decided if I want how many times I want to wrap it around. I think maybe I'll do, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times here. You want to let every element peek through a bit. So the goal here is not to cover up everything we've already done, but to enhance it and give interesting little layers. So let's trim that off and tie that. And then, and however you embellish it further is up to you. I think that I'm going to use some white buttons to get kind of like a Victorian feel, but if you want, you could add seashells for a coastal look. You could skip the burlap and the twine and use like a narrow satin ribbon and a rhinestone buckle for more of an upscale chic look. It's completely up to you and the theme and feel you want your wedding to have. So I'm going to use some white buttons. I just love white buttons, and you can see I love mason jars too because that's how I keep my buttons. And I think I'll put like I'll put a big one there on that knot with a little hot glue here, and then I can just go around and add little buttons as I think that they should be placed. You know, you don't have to go crazy. You could do like a complete border of buttons and have it really loaded, or you could just do a few. It depends on how many you want to use, how much time you have to decorate each thing. Remember, every little step you add will add time onto your project. I also love how this is neutral enough that if you had a friend getting married, you would be able to pass it along to her, and then she could use it in her project as well, and for her tablescapes as well. So there you have it. Super fun, super easy. I don't have any really fancy flowers here, but I'm going to just put these little chrysanthemums here that I have. But I think it's just darling. Now, I always thought it'd be pretty to be married in like the end of May, beginning of June, when lilacs are in blossom here, and then just fill mason jars with lilacs on all the tables. It would smell divine and be so gorgeous. Or maybe even lupins later in the summer if you're up here in the north. But take a look around of what is in season where you live. If you're planning a wedding, it can save you a lot of money and really add a lot of charm, especially for people that are traveling from away to watch you get married. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If you're planning a wedding, let me know in the comments below. Share your tips, tricks, and money-saving ideas, because I'm sure there are a lot of other brides and grooms out there that would love to benefit from your knowledge. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out our sponsor, Paper Mart. You can find them online at www.papermart.com. Packaging for less.